Well. We are right. It's hit the fan. So let's dive in and talk about it. Welcome to the Prepared Mind channel. It is the Friday free-for-all. And our top story is Joe Biden trips again. He stumbled. He took 4 steps, miniature steps, up onto a platform. He needed to speak in Philadelphia to a crowd of about 50 people. And he tripped and stumbled. The worry was he was going to land on the nuclear red button and set it off. The world has averted yet another catastrophe. Oh, man, can you believe this guy? He's still tripping. I couldn't help it. I had to use that intro, or rather disclaimer, because he's an asshole and a ding-dong. I tell you what, folks, it is Friday, a free-for-all Friday at that. I'm ready to take a day off, to relax, to have some fun, because it has been just an awful couple of weeks. With all of this, we're going to die any minute, and we're stressing out. Folks, it's important to be prepared. It's important to see what's going on. But getting stressed out over this stuff, the odds of us going into nuclear war are the same as yesterday, last week, last year, etc. It's always a threat. And they just provide us with new ways to become scared about it. Now, I found this fascinating. I talked to a very successful businessman who measures his wealth not in thousands, but in millions. And he was like, man, John, chance of nuclear war over this. What if someone does something and Israel and then Russia gets involved, it could spread? And I was like, wow, welcome to the party, pal. In other words, this is a big one. It is. And it's getting people's attention who normally wouldn't have anything to worry about, anything to consider. So I found that fascinating. For people who have something to lose, right? A lot of us, we've got nothing to lose. Some people have got a lot to lose, and they don't want to lose it. A lot of wealthy people out there don't want to lose their wealth, their standard of living, their anything. Interesting stuff, folks. So, has it started? Has it truly started? We'll get to that in a second. First, I want to thank everyone who's going to the preparedmind.club. And clicking on the buttons and buying the stuff you need from the suppliers that we are, well, affiliated with. This Prepared Mind bunker is a bunker, but it's not a warehouse full of goodies. I don't stockpile stuff, but we do check things out and put up on the preparedmind.club stuff that you can use to get prepared. Now, let's do this. It is the Friday free-for-all, meaning I don't do a 30-minute monologue and then 30 minutes you guys. We go back and forth. We're going to shotgun it back and forth. So now I'm going to do my next thing, and then you guys will have a question, and Uman will put it up here on the screen. I'll make you famous because, folks, thousands of people will come and watch what we discuss. They'll listen. They'll think about it. They'll consider the facts and then their perceptions. Maybe they'll get some different perspectives and change their thinking for hopefully the better. So here we go. So this friend of mine says, oh my God, we could have nuclear war. This could start it off. And it has started officially. This afternoon, our time, or at some point today, the Israelis, the IDF, their military, just stormed into Gaza with their infantry, armored cars, armored personnel carriers, and then they went on raids. They started doing localized raids. Look out. It's time for some raids. Now, what has come of this? Not much. Not much at all. At least nothing's coming to us to let us know what's going on. The concept of what is war and what is terror, that has come to the forefront, though. And it's got a lot of people talking and thinking. And as usual, the government is using this issue to divide us, to pit us against each other. There's a new term that's been introduced. A new man and I were just talking about it. Decolonization. This idea that, this colonization needs to be ended. I guess lands need to be returned to the rightful people. Something like that. So America needs to be decolonized. Well, how far back do you go in history? Don't worry, folks. They're going to disregard all logic, reason, and intelligent thought. It's just going to become a new byword. It just is. It's going to become a new byword. So let's keep our eyes open. Now it is your turn to step up. What do you want to talk about? What's on your mind? Get your questions in, because here comes the first one. And Uman kicks off. Orlando checked in with me today. And I said, dude, send that to Uman. And his topic was, things are not looking good. Too many inconsistencies for it to be believable. They are using 9/11 rhetoric to try and bait us. Keep your eyes and ears open. Don't fall for their tricks. I really liked this information Orlando shared with me. He had news stories, and then he had his opinion. And it was something to consider. Are we being played? Now, we just discussed, they're playing us. You pick this side or you pick that side. You pick one people or you pick the other people. Can they both be right? Or how about this? Can they both be wrong? Right? But they want to bait us. They want to try and drag us into the arguments. Right? If you don't like terrorists, right, you're not going to buy what it is they're trying to sell us on. That because they think they've been treated bad, that they think it's okay for them to commit atrocities. That's what they are saying. Now, the Hamas terrorist Palestinian side, claim that Israel has committed atrocities against them and have killed thousands of them over the years. And how do you know what the truth is? I could listen to one expert who would tell me, yes, Israel has killed thousands of Palestinians over the last couple of decades. So is it justifiable for Hamas to kill a couple thousand Israelis? Well, of course, I just told you they've killed thousands of Palestinians. But those Palestinians, were they Hamas and terrorists? Or are we just going to make them sound neutral and whitewashed and civilian? Were they harboring, as in housing, feeding, supporting, supplying Hamas or Hezbollah with what they need to continue their terror attacks? There is so much bad blood, bad history, bad activity, and bad actors in this entire Israel, Palestine, Gaza bullshit that it's hard to know. So keep your eyes and ears open, says Orlando. Don't fall for their tricks. That's why I started out the last couple of days saying, you know what I'm for? I picked the side of peace. And who is calling for peace in all of this? Anyone? Right? You know who's calling for peace, actually? Putin. Did Putin take a page out of the Prepared Mind book and say, look, no one wants murder and death. How about some peace? Why can't they find a way to peace? Well, I'll tell you what. One side says the other side always breaks their treaties. The Israelis say it about the Palestinians and terrorists. as if you could trust a terrorist to their word. And the terrorists say it about the Israelis, as if you could trust the Israelis to their word. No, never. Right? So again, they don't want peace. They want war. They want trouble. They both sides have this eye for an eye mentality. And it really, I think, can only be settled one way. Now, I'd like to bring this idea to the forefront of our minds to consider. We look over there at Israel, or at least I do, and I see two sides that hate each other. Two sides that don't even like each other in the least. Two sides that disagree completely with the opinions, programs, and politics of the other side. And I think the only solution for them is to fight it out. Okay, fight it out. Now, of course, the rest of the Muslim world wants to come and join the Palestinians in the fight. Not all of them. Most of the terrorist, violent, religious types want to go and destroy Israel. So I look at that and go, oh man, they got all these people just want to kill each other. They can't get along. They can't resolve their disputes. Nothing but accusations and death threats. And then I look at the Democrats and Republicans in America. Pretty much the same thing now. In the last couple of years especially, but over the last few decades. And the situation is worse, and it got worse. And it's like straight up. There is no talking to a Democrat. They're fucking morons. And they don't like us or think we're very smart either. They want what they want, and they're not willing to give in a bit. And they're willing to commit all acts of social media terror, educational terror, media, military, legal destruction. In other words, I think the Democrats are the terrorists. They're the ones trying to tear down the First Amendment, tear down the Fourth and Fifth Amendments, tear down the Second Amendment. Funny how they think they're preserving our democracy while they tear everything down. We're in the same boat as Israel and Palestine right now. Do you see it? Those with eyes to see and ears to hear are going to see how we are going to end up playing out. Just my thoughts. Now, let's get someone else's thoughts. No, it's name redacted. It's his turn. All right, name redacted. He says 9/11 was our Pearl Harbor, but this is their 9/11. As they very obviously push repeated talking points with their stories. Quote, the American people don't believe anything until they see it on TV, says Nixon. So I've asked myself, is what we are seeing or have been shown on television, on the internet, on Twitter, is it real? Are these scenes filmed? Are they green screen productions from a production company with people playing the baddies and Israelis pretending to be chased and killed? Are we seeing stage props with charred bodies and murdered bodies? Is this all a big 9/11, Sandy Hook, Boston bombing, Oklahoma City bombing, plastic banana, good time, rock and roll, Persian Bazaar bullshit production? Or is it real? Well, Hamas took credit for all of the missile launches. Iran, the Khomeini, he says, yeah, this is all good. Has it been embellished? Has the television and media services exaggerated? Are the numbers of people that are dead greater than they say or less? People kidnapped greater than they say or less? Right, the pull out, the abandonment of Afghanistan. Everything was fine one day and not the next. They made a fucking production out of it when they didn't have to. I agree with you, name redacted. If your thought and idea is, well, I don't trust any of these people. and showing it to us on TV just to get our attention, while that works, I still don't trust them, because they're telling us a story. And they are using talking points. Very much so. This is politicized, just as our politics in our country is politicized. You see a Democrat lunatic mass murderer, it's politicized. They have a manifesto. They've got an axe to grind, like the transgender mass murderer, child killing, Christian killing, fruitcake. Was it Louisville? Months ago. Not the only lunatic from the left that doesn't know what gender they are that's caused massive violence. But yeah, see, I just went right down my list of talking points, and I refer to some murders because I want people to understand how dangerous they are. So when we look at what's going on over there, the Israelis, folks, they understand the politicized nature of all of this. They don't want the country of Israel or Europe or United States of America or the rest of the world to see Israel as the bad guys, the baddies in all this. They've got to tell their story because Hamas is out there telling their story. They are. But here's where some interesting things happen. So right now, the Israeli military, thank you very much, name redacted. Right now, the Israeli military is rolling through portions of Gaza, going to targeted areas and looking for Hamas. Now, if I was in Hamas and I was an extreme radical religious fucker, knowing that I'm going to fight till my death and then I'm going to go to heaven and get 72 beautiful goats, right? Why wouldn't you attack the IDF like men? Well, it's because they're not really men. They like to kill women and children and attack and be sneaky because they're terrorists, not a military. But Israel is in there with their military, literally fighting this like a war while the terrorists hide. To me, that speaks volumes. There's a way to conduct a war. You tell your enemy, we're coming to kill you. You don't hide behind women and children's and women's skirts. Okay, now, on the other side, we have the terrorists and their belief systems. Apparently, fighting like a man is not something that jihadists do. And to support them and what they do, this is what a scholar, a Muslim scholar, makes the claim that Muslims engaged in jihad, holy war, have permission to kill Israelis, quote, wherever they may be. Now, I don't know of anywhere in the Quran where it says Israelis, because it is a new nation that was started, I think, in the 1920s. The nation or political state of Israel has only been around for about 100 years. Muhammad lived about 1,200 years ago. But still, they can kill Israelis, quote, wherever they may be. So you have to understand, folks, when it comes to religious killing, the scholars are the experts. The scholars understand Muslim diplomacy, and they're, it's their way or the highway. You convert or it's death. But folks, talk about glamorizing and glorifying violence. These fuckers will tell you to go commit violence and that you're going to get a bunch of women and good stuff when you're dead. Then they go out and they tell other people to do the same thing. Why isn't every Muslim out there who supports Hamas, Hezbollah, or any other terror organization, why aren't they deplatformed? In fact, if they're not in a Muslim country, why are they not deported? Why are they not deported? I'd like to know that. Isn't that a good question? I think it's a fine question. Why aren't they being deported? In fact, I think that was the subject of a news story that popped up today. Let me see if I can find it real fast. Mr. Uman, if you would. I know we've got some more topics that are out there with you guys that I think are going to be very important for us to cover. Very important for us to cover. I think it was France. And help me out if I'm wrong. Like they should be sent out of the USA. They're at UCLA, the University of California in Los Angeles, and they're chanting Intifada, Intifada, which is a bloody uprising against Israel. They're calling for violence. Now, in the country of Jordan, they're tear gassing the shit out of protesters, jihad protesters. They're not killing anyone, though. They're just gassing them. It's very interesting what is going on. I think France did say there'll be none of that shit, that they would be deporting people who support violence. Perhaps that was just a dream I had, that a country would be smart enough to do that. Yep, I'm going to leave it alone. Maybe someone else can bring it up. For the time being, though, I want to see what you guys want to talk about. Mr. Uman, who is next? Uman says he'll be next. He says, I most trust the videos and pictures I saw as the event was happening. The stuff that came days later needs more scrutiny with selective editing and what AI is capable of these days. Well, that's just it. We've been living in this world of artificial intelligence, the ability for computers to put my face on someone else, or someone else can speak words and it'll put my face on them and my voice. Yeah, it's a mess. Hamas released a video saying, no, we didn't shoot any of those people partying in the desert. They're like playing a video and they just cut the sound so you don't hear guns being fired. Brilliant. Once again, we have to look at IQ and technical resources as well. If we recall, the Ukraine military found some charred teeth and a dildo. And they whipped up a story for the media that Russians were committing war atrocities, and like the Nazis were burning people and raping them because they found some teeth and a dildo together. That is how stupid these stupid people are. Now, I did find my story. France has said they're going to expel, that means throw them out, all Hamas terror supporters. Not terrorists, but just their supporters during this worldwide day of jihad. And by the way, a teacher in France was killed by a jihadi. Now, what's interesting is we're now calling them jihadi instead of Muslims, or jihadi instead of Islamists, these violent terrorists. It's all the same people. Kind of like they went from calling Al-Qaeda the bad guys to Al-Qaeda were the good guys. And it's ISIS who they're bad guys, right? The Islamic State. And that, well, no, those are the good guys in another. They couldn't make up their minds. So they kept creating new names for the same literal faces. Literal same faces. The same way we found the literal same faces of a radical, violent, terrorist Muslim who cut a young boy's head off. The same man appeared with Senator John McCain and was posing for pictures with him. Isn't it interesting, right? How they can kill a Christian boy, and that's great, and then John McCain can pose for pictures. I really miss John McCain. Just kidding, I don't. But good for France. I hope they expel everyone who supports not just Hamas, but any terror organization or any criminal for that matter. Unbelievable. Now back to artificial intelligence. putting words in people's mouth, putting people's faces on other bodies. It's pretty interesting stuff. It does take a lot of scrutiny. There'll be editing, and there'll be all different levels, right? Like Hamas cutting the sound out, or someone else reusing, recycling, and editing into old footage new things. And then, of course, the new AI supercomputer stuff. It's quite interesting. They're going to make it, who do you believe? And I'll even say, live on the ground footage that's being covered. Folks, back in the early 90s, CNN had two of their assholes up on the roof of their studio pretending they were in Iraq, and that they were being bombed. Does anyone remember that? It was live. They were saying, "Oh, we're taking fire," and they're putting their hands over their helmet. They're pretending. They're fucking actors. Kind of like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wearing her best feminist whites down at the Mexican border, southern United States, southwest, and was at a chain link fence pretending to cry over all the people in cages. There were no people there. There were no cages there. It was just an opportunistic place for a photo op. And I think we're going to see a lot of that shit. Once again, everyone is selling a story. They want to divide us. They want to make us become violent. Unbelievable stuff. So today, the most notable killings by worldwide jihad was a teacher in France, and then a Israeli office worker from the Israeli, what do they call those buildings? Shit, brain fart. The embassy, the Israeli embassy in China. The embassy worker, who happened to be an Israeli, was out in town doing some shopping in China, and he was stabbed by someone who wasn't Chinese. It was a foreigner who just decided to be in China and stab people because it's Day of Jihad. I guess maybe it's going to be like the Purge. We're just going to get that day of Purge. Interesting. Quite interesting, in fact. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, the embassy worker wasn't just stabbed. He was repeatedly stabbed. Isn't that wonderful? All right. I think I want more of your questions into the comment section for Mr. Uman. And I think I'm ready to talk about more. And let's do it. I was waiting for Charles Gentry. I knew he was out there. My spidey senses were tingling. And he says, finally, one of them admitted they want white people gone. Well, Uman, all we had to do was listen to what they were actually saying. They want what was worked for without the work. The only problem I see, says Charles Gentry, the only problem I see is when they take it all, who's going to make the next batch? And that's the problem with these people. They think that they've had the valuable ground stolen. Right? These terrorists are very much socialist minded. They're very much totalitarian minded. Right? In every revolution, violence is there, and the people that take over, right, do what they think they should be doing. So let's use the Soviet Union as an example. They used violence in their revolution to take over, and they said, see, all of those rich people have the stuff we need. And that middle class over there, the bourgeoisie, right? The property owners, we need to take their stuff too and distribute it to everybody so we're all equal. But then there's nobody working. There's nobody making anything. There's nobody growing any food. And they become worse off for it. Right? Whether it's real estate or business, wealth, mining, farming, these people don't want to do it. I mean, look at Gaza. Actually, go watch a video on Gaza. Tell me about all of the hundreds of acres of farming they do, or how they mine for minerals. You know what those people do? They dig up their water pipes and make bombs and missiles out of their plumbing. That's what they do. They're not making things, they're destroying things, because that's what they do. People want to complain about the Israelis and say, well, all they do is steal other people's property, right? The Palestinians and such. It seems to me that they're also actually trying to build business infrastructure and industry over there. Now, over in the Persian Gulf area, Qatar and United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia, they're trying to build industry. They're trying to build infrastructure. They're trying to build stuff, but they're not engaged in a holy war, are they? Yep. These people all say the same thing. They want what other people have, and they look for a difference and then say, well, let's kill them. Now, if you look at Israelis, typically they look more white-ish. And if you look at a typical Palestinian, they're more brownish, right? There's a distinct difference in the way they look. So there's also a cultural, racial aspect to this. So the Sephardic Jews and Ashkenazi Jews, whatever they are, who made it to Israel to start this new nation, they're considered outsiders, and therefore they're the bad people. It's a mess. It truly is a mess, and it's not going to get any better. Just like the persons of color, the idiot ding-dongs here that want to decolonize America, who's it going to go to? Which Native American tribe gets to own America if we were forced to leave and go away? Is it the Indian tribe that doesn't exist anymore? Or is it the Indian tribe that is interracially and genetically mixed with white people? Do they get to have it? What about all of the people that tribe killed in the past, even further back in the past, in order to steal the land from them? Because the Native American tribes were fighting amongst themselves. They didn't sit around and smoke them peace pipe all day long with everybody they ran across. No, they killed each other. Kind of a human nature thing when you're not using this very much and you just want to, I don't know, kill people. Wow. It's got to happen though, Charles. And this is the thing I see, is we have to go through this violence to get to the other side. Because there's too much difference. You're not going to change minds. You're certainly not going to change the way they feel about it, their hearts. Anyways, thank you, Charles, very much. I want to get into a little bit of American, shall we say, activity that's happened with this. The Biden regime is trying to hide the fact that they gave $6 billion to Iran. And then Iran turned around and said, yeah, we support Hamas and we took care of them and we supply them, etc. So they're trying to say, oh, no, we're not going to give them the money then. Well, turns out, according to sources, that the Biden regime, the Biden administration, did not block Iran's payoff money. Oh, by the way, the $6 billion they got is so that they don't make nuclear weapons. How does that work? I tell you what, United States government, give me $6 billion and I'll promise not to make nuclear weapons. Anyways, the Iranian regime, the Ayatollah Khomeini, he says, quote, they cannot renege on the agreement. Speaking of the U.S. government, they're not allowed to. The liberal media here is trying to hide Joe Biden. The Iranians, folks, I take them at their word. I think they're actually an honest enemy in the fact that they'll tell you what they think of us. They don't like the U.S. government in Washington, D.C. They don't like Israel. And they're going to tell the truth. Yeah, they're involved. Yeah, they supplied missiles. Yeah, they want Hamas to attack Israel. They don't hide any of that, do they? They come right out front and tell us exactly what they think. So when they say something, folks, I tend to believe them. Not because I like them or I support them, but because they're at least honest about who they are. They're a bunch of stinking terrorists. Why is the United States government paying off, bribing, working with the Iranians if their goal is to destroy Israel and or America? All right. We still have Charles Gentry on the board, Mr. Uman. Let's see who wants to step up next with one of your topics. Who is it going to be? It's going to be Mikey G. And he says 1776 already decolonized America, right? And this is a very fascinating way to look at this. Well, the colonizer of the Americas, or rather North America, was England. And of course, Canada was part of that, as well as France was part of the Canadian side. But yeah, down here. And so the revolution stopped that. It was no longer colonial. It became its own political entity. And there were rules that were created, but, Native Americans couldn't vote and blacks couldn't vote. And that's probably wrong. But yeah, it was no longer a colony. It now sought to improve the possessed lands for themselves. But is that really what they're talking about, Mikey G? They use the word colonize, decolonize, because it sounds trendy, hip, cool, and smart. What they really should say is they want to kill white people. It's that simple. They want to kill white people. Why won't they say it? I want to know why they won't say it. They should just say it. Say it.
Well, I didn't know you wanted to get involved with the discussion, Mr. Helper. But since you want to help, maybe you can help me, okay? You remember that thing we had about 30 years ago called that Korean conflict? Yeah, where we failed to achieve victory. How come we didn't cross the 38th parallel and push those rice eaters back to the Great Wall of China and take the Berkeley brick and nuke them back into the fucking Stone Age River? How come? Tell me why? Say it! Say it!
All right, I'll say it. Because Truman was too much of a pussy wimp to let MacArthur go in there and blow out those commie bastards.
Good answer.
Yeah, say it. They won't say it. I mean, some of them do, but others, see, they're trying to put a fresh political spin on the idea of getting rid of the white people and killing us and getting us to leave behind everything. Well, the NFIC, which was some sort of black militant group several years ago in 2020, they wanted the United States government to give to them the state of Texas. So they're going to continue to push for this. Whether it's minority groups in America or Canada or England or in Israel, Palestine. They're going to continue to push to say, everyone that we don't like, get out. What do you think the answer is, though? How do we fix this? I don't know, but they do want to fight to the death. Get this. They have great job opportunities. Since I spoke a few minutes ago about what do they do in Gaza? What do they do in Palestine for jobs, right? Well, they do have great job opportunities. It's called Human Shields Wanted. It's Hamas is begging Palestinians to stay in northern Gaza, despite the fact that the Israeli Defense Force, the military, gave notice for them to evacuate. I found that fascinating that the Israelis will say, we're going into this area and we're going to look for terrorists and we want all civilians out. Does it sound like they're committing war atrocities, or does it sound like they're telling people, get the fuck out of the way? This is now a war zone. Well, Hamas called that warning fake propaganda. Kind of a head scratcher because now the Israelis are in there. So at least the Israelis are being honest about how they fight, while Hamas is a sneaky bunch of chicken shit terrorists. The Iranians are very honest about what they support and believe in. We got a lot of honest dishonesty going on here. In other words, I think the Middle East is a giant shithole. It truly is. It truly is. I mean, Israeli warned the United Nations and told the UN, go into the Gaza Strip up north. Right? We're going to invade. We want you to evacuate. This is a war zone. Now, I think I sent this to Orlando, this thought. You know, no one is protected from war, actual war. There's going to be a battle. There's going to be a fight. If it happens in your area, well, you're screwed. If you're a civilian and you don't want to be trapped in the middle of the fight, you evacuate. That's how it's always been in war zones. Now, the United States of America, we haven't had a war on our soil in a long time. So people don't realize that when a war comes, you get the hell out of the way or you get tangled in it. Well, they're going to get tangled in it, folks. They're all going to scream down there in Gaza that the Israelis are there murdering them, right? That they shouldn't be there. It's illegal, yada, yada. Now, I mean, after covering so much of this, did everyone just forget about Biden's impeachment hearings, impeachment inquiry? Did everyone forget about Hunter Biden and the fact that a judge is now throwing out his gun charges? They don't want to hear about his IRS violations and his lawlessness there. Everyone just kind of forget about that. Well, you know, on the American social side, do you think the liberal Democrats out here want to save babies now, or do you think they're all still pro-abortion? Right. There are, in our country, folks, abortion initiatives that the abortionists are trying to get out there. Right. Now, yeah, everyone's busy looking over at Gaza and looking at Palestine. We totally forgot that in our own backyard, right here with us, we got a bunch of wacko idiots that want to, you know, decolonize the country and make sure everyone has an abortion and everyone cuts their nutsack off. Right. Now, I want to say this. Abortion is the killing of an infant, a fetus, a baby. And it's just like Hamas that has killed babies. But folks, abortion is here in our country. Hamas and Israel are over there. The abortion is right here. Have you forgot all about our problems here? Or are we so worried about what's going on over there that we'll just let all this shit slide off the table? Right? Babies in America are being silently terrorized and killed by Democrats. Democrats call it a right. Satanists call it their sacrament, their religious experience. They're a bunch of sickos. And who is it supporting Hamas in America, in our backyard, as they call for the death of our babies and the extermination of white people? Who is it here? Democrats are supporting Hamas. Now can we see who is on whose side? Whose side should I be on? Should I support Hamas in all of this? Well, that's who the Democrats want to win. That's who the Democrats think should fight. They share the same ideas, principles, and concerns. Kill the babies, fine. Get rid of the white people, fine. That's what they think, folks. I wanted to draw that connection. Don't forget about what is really going on in our country, what should be happening, as they're trying to just kind of sweep it off the side of the table and let everyone forget about it. How about the fact that they stopped drilling for oil here? They've shut down projects. They've killed pipelines. Energy production is getting its ass kicked in this country. Have they fixed the infrastructure? Winter is coming. Are they building more solar power and wind power and shutting down coal plants and gas plants? Speaking of gas, how about your gas appliances in your kitchen? Are you aware that Joe Biden is trying to make it harder, more expensive, or illegal for you to have a gas appliance? which was sold at one time as clean, efficient, wholesome and American natural gas. Nice little blue flame there at your stove. Now it's an evil, evil thing. Unbelievable, folks. Don't forget who these people are. It's about their political talking points, and it's about distracting us. Again, we come here and talk for several hours a week. But there is actual real life out there for us as well. Until it gets to the point where it's like Gaza and Israel, when everyone is at everyone's throats and people are calling for war on the streets. Will America turn into that place? Can it turn into that place? I think it could. I think it's possible, and we need to be very, very wary of it all. Whew, that was a mouthful, Mr. Uman. Okay, where do we want to roll next? And it is none other than Survival Readiness stepping in. And he has a statement. He says, took my Baofeng ham radio to work today in case some event happened. Did a radio check on the way home and had my lady listening. The home unit didn't pick up the transmission until 3 blocks away. So disappointed with them. In an emergency, it doesn't look like they will be all that useful. Well, that's sad to hear. I have a lot of people that I hear like the different units out there. So let me ask you this. In the event of a communication breakdown / failure, in the event of that, do you have a plan? Do you have a basic plan? And if you have communication with others in your family, your group, that you can operate on, it's important to not rely on any technology. The same way we shouldn't rely on technology the way we do now. But we've been trained. It's so convenient. It really makes things easier. If you don't like the Baofeng unit, then my recommendation is you buy a more expensive unit. Find another company that has a unit that is better. I'm telling you, folks, it's a rough world out there. I mean, obviously, the military has the best stuff. And the fact that you did a radio check, I think, is a good idea. I've done radio check with people down in my area here to see how far things reach. They don't reach as far as you like, whether it's CB or shortwave, etc. Like, there's a lot of radio interference now, and it's getting worse with this 5G. Just because we can't hear it doesn't mean there's not a bunch of shit out there. Television, AM, FM, satellite, microwave transmissions, 5G, 4G, 3G, police band, military band, satellite bands, not to mention all the solar radiation, microwaves, ultraviolet A, B, C. So yeah, it's going to be rough. Now, if things get nasty, and I recommend you try using your unit, survival readiness, at a time like early morning before everyone's up and at them, and see if it makes a difference. The sun causes a lot of interference. In Northern California, I used to listen to radio stations out of Boise, Idaho, Seattle, as far south as Vegas. That's an AM signal. When the sun is down and it's late night, you could pick up Art Bell on a dozen different radio stations from all over the country. So it's important to know and understand that. There's less noise, less traffic, and the sun does cause a lot of trouble. It would not surprise me also, Mr. Readiness, if the government isn't doing things to try and interfere with our radios. As a young man, I used to sit in my Jeep and listen on my CB to what people were talking about on different channels. And it was amazing how far you could skip a signal with a standard low wattage, very weak citizens band radio, CB radio. I don't know, why you've had trouble. But it's good to have a plan in place, and I'm sure you do. I know you got a plan, a standby plan. The idea is something goes wrong, get your ass home. If you can communicate with people, that's great. Anyways, there we are. There we have it. I'm sorry you're disappointed with them, man. Look into others. Talk to other people at if you can go and look at them physically. See if you can find a brand that you're satisfied with. All righty. Let's see, where are we going next? Oh, yeah, this was important. Absolutely important here. The $6 billion gift, bribe, payoff that was provided to Iran. The Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, says that Trump did that. It's Trump's fault. Of course it's Trump's fault. Everyone should know that it's always Trump's fault. This is where they're at. This is how they think, folks. This is what we've got. Mr. Uman, who is up next? We've got 9 minutes left. I want to make sure we get everyone in here. Name Redacted says, people should consider a third choice that the hidden hand uses all the time. The hidden hand, folks, is a reference to the Illuminati, these secret societies out there with power and influence, like the Bilderberg Group, the banking cartels, the European aristocracy and their descendants. Anyways, Name Redacted continues. When you don't know what to do, do nothing. Stop letting them create consensus to allow nefarious schemes. And this is where I have trouble, is it doesn't matter what I think or what I do, Mr. Redacted. They are playing their game to the masses. I'm not in a position to take action. I'm taking no action. I'm doing nothing. If I were to start taking action, it would have the appearance of illegality. Right? If I went and started doing things that I know would stop these nefarious characters, right? They would call that the crime instead of the crimes that they're creating by massaging public consensus using propaganda and psychological operations. This has got to play out, folks. It does. They are going to deceive everyone that can be deceived, which is kind of why I like to talk about these facts, these truths, bring up conspiracy theories to test them and talk about them. It's to find out, right, what is believable and what isn't. Have we been tricked? Oh, I was tricked on 9/11. I knew it was bullshit at first, and then I was like, yeah, let's go kick someone's ass. And then later I'm like, did that really solve the problem? Did it address the problem? Or was this just a charade? The hidden hand, right? They will give you a problem, and then they'll offer the solution to the problem, which is them fixing the problem the way they want to. It's also called Hegelian dialect. Hegelian dialect. Look it up. It's a real thing. It's been given a more modern name, problem, reaction, solution. And that title or that name was created by David Icke, Icke, who is now completely kicked off of YouTube because even though he's got some radical, crazy stuff like lizard people are the ones running the planet, they don't want him talking because he's a good communicator. I think that's why they also want to stop you and me from listening to each other, talking to each other. They don't want us communicating. That may be why they're trying to interrupt radio signals, social media. They don't like us talking to each other. That's why they're canceling people through their banks and their lending and financial institutions. They don't like you talking. They need you silent. You see, how much more could they do in damage and push their agenda if we would just shut up? Right? They, and in fact, you say it right here, Name Redacted, stop letting them create consensus. You know, they want everyone to listen to their story and then get behind it. So anytime one of these groups comes out and says, well, this is the solution, I'm like, yeah, of course it is. I'm not believing that's the proper solution. And having public consensus or public acceptance of that agenda doesn't convince me that it's right. We got a lot of trouble, folks. We'll see what happens and shakes out. Oh, it's Friday, the 13th. All the Knights Templars that were arrested hundreds and hundreds of years ago. I think the very first Friday the 13th was October, Friday the 13th. And the Knights Templar were rounded up because the king did not like them and the fact that the king could not control them. King of France, Philip le Fer or Philip le Bel. Yeah, folks. They want to control the message and control everything. It's your choice. How do you want to play the game? I think it's interesting. Whew. Wow. What a world. What an absolute shit show. Over the weekend, I think probably the odds are a little higher. Hamas is calling on all the Palestinian people. Arab and Muslim nations are supposed to invade Israel and confront the Israeli soldiers in this thing called an Al-Aqsa flood operation. Well, it's Friday. Did they flood anything? How is it, folks, that these radical wackos can do all of this damage, but then when it comes to them actually invading Israel, they stopped? There's a lot of big talk going on, and I wonder how much of this was created, fabricated, pushed on to try and create this war. Like in Jordan, people are right next door, but they haven't flooded into there. The people of Gaza have not flooded over into Israel. The Lebanese haven't come down. The Syrians haven't come down. The Egyptians have not come up. Where is Turkey today? Why did they not flood and invade Israel? Why is it? Just a simple question. Why haven't they done it? I guess they really don't believe in their strategy. They don't really want to decolonize and get rid of the Israelis. You might notice I don't call them or tend not to call them Jews. They're Israelis. They may be Jewish, they may practice Judaism, but it's that kind of a world, folks. We need to be careful what we say. Let's do this. Let's end the show with this next comment. There we go. There it is. Uman says, hey, talk about deplatformed. Kaz, who was on this show the other day, used to be the fifth dimension or the 10th dimension. He got knocked around on YouTube and became the Italian hillbilly. But Patreon took his channel down there as well. And, he's got hatred, apparently, and Patreon doesn't like him. They're all about deplatforming. They're all about silencing us. They want their narrative, their agenda to be the one that everyone speaks. They want their decisions to be the one that everyone agree on. And hell, maybe they'll give us two choices. Hey, should we invade Gaza from the north or south? Hey, should we invade Israel from the north or south? And see what the people say. They want, I say, hey, should anyone be invading anyone? That's the game playing, is they'll give you a choice of two options, and they'll benefit from both options. How do the people of Gaza benefit if they get into an absolute knockdown, drag out military fight with Israel? How are they going to benefit? That's why they want all of the people to come there, folks, and invade and flood Israel, is so that there'll be some survivors. This is what they want. They want an all-out war. I really hope that they don't give it to them, folks. Shit's going to hit the fan. But, pray for peace. It has been a Friday free-for-all. I want to thank you guys for participating. Go to thepreparedmind.club and sign up as a premium member, and then check out what it is that's available to help you get prepared. Now, as pointed out by Survival Readiness, he doesn't care for some radios he got. I think we recommend Motorola, and I think I've got a Baofeng. Nothing's perfect, folks. May end up having to use them as a club or a hammer later. Anyways, get prepared as best you can. Understand that if things get really nasty, only you can rely on you. So that's why we leave it up to us as individuals. Thankfully, we can still talk, at least for the time being here. So, you say in the past, right? Chance favors the prepared mind. Is yours. Semper Fi, Godspeed.